when was it that you did very well when you were being fearful? Odds are, when you're being fearful, when you have that fearful and that scarcity mentality, you're not going out and you're not attacking and you're not working and you're not very productive. You're more, how much can I contain? How much can this? How much can that? And the hoarding mentality comes in there. And then we no longer go out and we're no longer effective. We're not giving back to the community and staying active. And if people continue to do that, then it does end up hurting the economy and it hurts things and it ends up hurting yourself by doing so. Hey guys, welcome to the show today. I'm super excited to do this one. I've been compiling so much data. My wife hasn't been super happy about me staying up so late, just watching different videos, compiling data on a lot of different items. But it's kind of come together for this video. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a prophet. I'm not sure if you guys knew that or not before, but I don't have a crystal ball. I'm going to be giving you the data that I know and then working it off of there and just giving my opinion. And we'll see how this video ages. Maybe it'll do super well and I was 100% spot on. Or maybe I'll have missed a few points. I mean, I don't know, and frankly, neither do you. So so we're all here speculating and giving our best ideas here. Overall, with what's been going on with the coronavirus, we've seen a lot of panic, we've seen a lot of hysteria, we've seen a lot of things going insane. My wife's from Spain. Currently, when I'm filming this, Wednesday, March 17th, 18th, one of those two. But with what's going on there, everyone there is in quarantine. You can only leave your house to walk your dog, to go to the grocery store, or to go to the pharmacy. So it's very tight. And this is something that we've never seen before on a global level, where people are so strict on what you can and can't do. So by doing this, in a lot of ways, I think we are doing everything that's possible to limit the spread of that virus. We were early on into it. Here in Utah, in general, we don't have, super big cities. We have Salt Lake City that's relatively big. But in general, we don't have super big cities. And so everyone has been kind of a little more tight on their social distancing and so on and so forth. So I think we'll see that play out and be beneficial. The one thing that I thought was interesting, I don't want to go in and say, hey, panic, this is real, it's happening, we got to deal with it one way or another. But I am going to mostly focus on the economic side of it and the real estate economic side of it, because that's what I know, and it's a little less speculative where I'm coming from, but even there it's still very, very highly speculative. But as far as I'm concerned, and what I've seen in a lot of studies, as far as net amount of deaths, it's actually going to go down because of the social distancing, because of the increase in hygiene. Folks are taking better care of themselves and being more aware of what they're doing and more aware of their immune systems. With a lot of other sicknesses that they might have had, those are now being avoided. So, we're avoiding coronavirus, we're also avoiding a lot of these other things that could have been going on. And then again, the scary thing about this, honestly, it's not even the deaths of the people that are going to pass away during this time, which again, I don't want to undervalue that, but it's the uncertainty. That's what makes it extra scary, because folks die. Let me pull up the closer number in terms of the amount of deaths that are generated by a lot of different things. If we're looking at suicide, unfortunately, that's about 45,000 deaths that we have every year. Diabetes, we're looking at 80,000 deaths. Heart disease, we're looking at 600,000 deaths. And those are all scary high numbers, and it's sad. But at the same time, we're not always talking about the importance of exercising. We're not always talking about the importance of eating well. We're not always talking about those things, even though it's very real. But because it's calculated and because we know kind of what to avoid and what to do there, and we know the results, we don't tend to worry too much about it. Which I'm not saying we don't need to worry. I'm not saying we don't need to take precautions. Please take precautions. Do what's best for yourself and your family. But that's what I honestly think is the root of what's going on and why everything is going so crazy. So I'm going to go in pretty deep depth on what's going on in real estate. To talk about this, I'm going to go into what the market is, how the market currently is today, a lot of the factors that go into that, and then my speculation on what that'll turn into and what that means for us going into the future. So I'm going to go very deep into those questions that I got. Some of the main ones were, will we see a crash? Are we looking at another 2008? How long will it take for the housing market to start hurting? And what can I do in this changing environment to stay ahead of the curve? So I'm going to go pretty deep into those, and then I'm going to get started first on will we see a crash. So here are a couple numbers. I'm going to post all the links and all the graphs in another post. But just historically, almost every time that there's been, we saw it with SARS, we saw it with swine flu, we saw it with bird flu, we saw it with a lot of these other sicknesses. There's always been a dip in the market. What we've seen now is a much deeper dip in terms of the stock market. But during most of those dips that we saw from about 2010 to now, a lot of those hardly touched the housing market. The housing market's a lot more stable than is a stock market than are a lot of other places, because it's real. They're real assets, right? It's backed by the land, it's backed by the home, and that's the last thing on the chopping board that everyone has. If you think about yourself, think about what it is that you own, right? So you're thinking about like your clothes, you're thinking about your house, you're thinking about your big screen, television, right? You're thinking about your car, you're thinking about all these things that you have. If you had to get rid of all those things or keep like your house and your food and your family, what are the last things that you're going to take off on that list? It's going to be housing. People need a place to live, they need a place to sleep, and especially with what's going on in quarantine, that's going to be the last thing that people choose to disregard. Folks would sooner acquire credit card debt than to lose their homes, right? So that's why the housing tends to be a lot more stable in general. So that's a little bit about that. The statistics as far as the last things going on are very important, right? A recession, which is where the GDP falls consecutively for 2 quarters, and a housing crisis are not the same thing, okay? So of the last 6 recessions, only 2 of them have affected the housing market in a negative way. One of them only affected it by 1.9%, which is almost nothing considering just in an average regular market, appreciation tends to go up about 4% year over year. That means that your house is going up in value about 4% year over year. If your house is worth $300,000, odds are in a normal market, the following year, it'll be worth $312,000. So that's the simple math behind it. So if it went down 1.9%, again, that's like half a year's of appreciation, really doesn't faze you. And then the other one was in 2008, and that one dropped almost 20%, was the big drop there. And 20% is a big drop, and it is a big deal for a lot of people. But the other statistic that's important to keep in mind is this is nationwide. Utah, we're actually a little better than this. But 30% of homeowners own their homes free and clear. 0 debt, they own them all out. So that's pretty safe for them, right? If it goes up 10%, if it goes down 20%, it doesn't affect them too much in terms of what they need to do with that money because they don't have any debt on it, right? And then 50% of homeowners own their homes or have more than 50% equity. So in the worst case scenario, we repeated 2008, and that's worst case scenario, then it'll drop to about 30, or that 50% to have 50% equity drops to about 30% equity. And a lot of banks will allow you to have a HELOC, which is home equity line of credit, with your LTV about 80%, right? Or 75. So what that means is if you have 20% equity, you can pull out that extra 10% as essentially a loan against your house that you can do something with, right? So it still means, what essentially that means is flexibility. And I'm going to try to keep the terms relatively simple, but it is a complex subject with some complex terms, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna do the best I can to keep those simplified. So to answer that question is, will we see a crash? Potentially. The big variable there is how long this lasts and how this affects the jobs, right? So if the jobs stay where they're at, right? And I think this is also just a little caveat on my opinion here. I think this is a very interesting social experiment a forced social experience really from a lot of the employers, is sending their employees to work at home and seeing if the productivity stays the same or very similar, right? If it is, and people are producing the same at home, then a lot of employers are going to say, hey, we have a lot of extra capital that we're investing in paying our rent at this office building or paying our mortgage on this office building. Why don't we get rid of that, allow our employees to work at home, they're a little bit happier, their productivity stays the same, and then we get rid of this essentially reoccurring cost that it can now be gone, right? So I think it's a little funny social experiment. My philosophy there is interesting to watch. If it does work, I think we'll see an interesting conversion with what will happen with that space that they're currently using there. But again, it's neither here nor there. It's just a little caveat I thought I'd mention while we were on. But the big question is, how long can we go with this coronavirus without it really hurting the job market? And that's a big question that needs to be answered. And it depends, right? That's the question I don't know. If I knew that number, then I think my speculation would be a lot closer. But I mean, if we go a month, 2 months with these dips, honestly, I don't see that affecting the housing market hardly at all. If we go 3 months, again, it's not going to affect the housing market a whole lot. The housing market's very strong, especially here in Utah. A couple more statistics that back up kind of what I'm saying here is in Utah in general, we have a lot more people coming here from out of state. We have a very educated populace in terms of what's going on here. I'm in Utah County, but just in Utah County, we have a lot of little local colleges. We have your MTech, your Provo College, a lot of other things going on there. We have BYU with 30,000 students. We have UVU with 40,000 students. And then we have a higher birth rate than almost anywhere else in the nation. And on top of that, like I said, we have kind of an entrepreneur spirit here, which creates a lot of business, creates a lot of jobs. We tend to do pretty well. And even in 2008, we were one of the last ones to feel it. And we were one of the first ones to recover from it. So Utah, historically, we tend to do pretty well amidst a changing market. But especially now, with the amount of growth that we've seen here, it's been incredible. Our appreciation has been almost twice what it's been almost anywhere else. I mean, if you look at the nation average, over the last from 2008, that recovery, right, to today, our appreciation has been almost double what everyone else has seen. And that's because we have things to back it up. If we're looking at it as like a soccer team or a football team or something, we have a very deep bench. We have got a lot of things backing up our growth and backing up where we're at. So those are a couple of the details of why I believe that we're going to do pretty well, depending on how long this lasts, right? The longer it lasts, the worse it ends up being for everyone, right? Because, well, we're in this situation of uncertainty. People aren't going out and they aren't being very productive. If you think about it yourself, when was it that you did very well when you were being fearful? Odds are, when you're being fearful, when you have that fearful and that scarcity mentality, you're not going out and you're not attacking and you're not working and you're not very productive. You're more, how much can I contain? How much can this? How much can that? And the hoarding mentality comes in there. And then we no longer go out and we're no longer effective. We're not giving back to the community and staying active. And if people continue to do that, then it does end up hurting the economy and it hurts things and it ends up hurting yourself by doing so. It's just kind of basic. It goes way back to, right, when we were cave people is the idea there. But that fear was what kept us alive, right? The same fear I have to jump on a phone call and talk to a prospect, talk to someone who I don't know, the same fear I have to go and talk to a stranger. That's not real fear, right? My life is no longer in danger. But our minds haven't quite understood that shift yet, right? We haven't understood that, hey, if I go and talk to him, nothing's going to happen to me. So that's where we take that little break there and see what's going on in our minds to make sure that we're moving forward. Great. Well, I hope that was a decent answer for the first question is, will we see a crash? Well, a short answer to resume that is it really depends on how long this carries out. If this carries out maybe more than 6 months, then I could see us starting to see those dips in the market. But here's the big thing, and here's the big question, and here's what a lot of folks are scared about and speculating on is, are we going to see another 2008? So to go into that, we have to see what was going on in 2008 and then compare it to what was going on today, right? So going into 2008, you have to talk about how easy it was to get a loan. I mean, legitimately, the loans were being given out to everyone. This is something I work a little more with in the Latin community, but they have an ITIN, which is just a tax number that they can use. You don't even need a social security number to be able to buy. There was tons of zero money down loan programs. There were a lot of ARMs, which are adjustable rate mortgages. So say, for example, what that means is, say I had something and they locked me in today at 3%. They're like, oh, cool, you're at 3%. Great, let's go ahead and move on forward. But it could adjust with the market, right? So say tomorrow there's a dip and then my rate now goes up to 7%. And my monthly payment's gone up a few $100s. And then that's very dangerous, right? So there was a lot of adjustable rate mortgages and then a lot of equity, as I stated in the fact below, or before, right? 50% of homeowners now have more than 50% equity, 30 own and free and clear. We have a lot of PTSD associated with that and with losing our homes and with what's associated there. So in general, a lot of the populace is not taking and pulling out money out of there. There's actually a lot less money being pulled out, whether it's through home equity lines of credit, whether it's through cash out refinancing, even though our dollar inflation is just naturally gone up a little bit more, and then there's more money in the ecosystem. Now, the amount of dollars, I'll have that in one of the graphs below, but in terms of the billions of dollars, it's about half. We're pulling out about half as much as what was being pulled out then. So people are leaving the money in their homes, they're leaving that equity there, they're not wanting to foreclose on, and if you have equity, you're not really getting foreclosed on. And then honestly though, there will be some foreclosures. That number might go up a little bit, but I don't foresee this huge, massive crash like we saw in 2008. If we do see a decline in the housing market, I think it'll be a dip. We'll go back to a more regular market, which I'm actually excited about. Recently, it's been a massive seller's market. And again, going back to 2008 and what was going on there was a lot of inventory. Throughout most of the nation, there was 6-7 months of inventory, which means lots of houses that were on the market, lots that were still being bought out, but a ton of buying on speculation. Folks would buy something, sell it the next week, or not the next week, that's an exaggeration, but sell it in a couple months, do nothing to it, and make an extra $10,000, right? Like that's not happening today. We have had strong appreciation. We have had homes go up in value, but the appreciation back then, it was like 8%, 10%, 12%, 12%. And here it's been more 5%, 6%, 4%, 7%. I mean, it's been a lot more of a level increase rather than a hockey stick going up. And if it goes up that fast, there's a much higher probability that it'll go down just as fast, right? But we've had a lot of things to back up that and to back up our growth and to back up what's been going on there. So again, to resume my answer for are we going to see 2008? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see a big drop. I think there will be some opportunities for folks who go way, way, way too tight on their limits, who are spending way too much. Honestly, for those folks, if it wasn't the coronavirus, if it wasn't this, it was any dip. It was losing their job for a month. It was, any little minor adjustment that could be made, it would be detrimental. And then again, that's not a big coronavirus thing. That's a more of a, hey, how am I doing on my personal finances? What do I have in reserves? If I don't have anything in reserves, maybe I shouldn't be spending money on this newer car, right? If I don't have any money in reserves, maybe I shouldn't be spending $200 on a pair of shoes, right? So that's just some small things to consider, and it's not this virus, it's not this huge thing. It was any dip, any adjustment, anything that would go on in the market would have been detrimental. So this huge housing thing, I think for your general person, as long as we continue to work and as long as we have some productivity continue, then it'll come. I think it'll go. We'll see how long it lasts. But with all the measures that have been taken, I think that we're going to do pretty well, and I think we'll push past that. And then the big question I have is, if there is change, how do we adjust to that change? How do we grow and benefit from that change? You know, my philosophy for most people is this, and I don't think it's going to change. I think for most people, if you're investing in real estate, you should do some house hacking, right? Whether it's buy like a duplex, live there a year, then rent out both units, right? Well, you're renting out the one to keep your payment low. Or if you are set on not doing a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, a home with an accessory apartment, if you or your spouse are just completely against that, which I think you should talk about, and I think it's a worthwhile venture for a lot of folks. But if you're against that or your family's past that point, well, just buy a house that you think would do well. Live there a year or two, put it as a rental, make sure it's a decent cash flowing rental. Move, buy another house, live there a year or two, leave it as a rental, right? And find what that monthly number is that you're looking for. Say my monthly number is $10,000, average home rents for $2,000 a month. And so I get 6 of them, and then just that 2,000 extra for fudge factor, I get those 6 as fast as I can while keeping money in reserves for a rainy day. But then once I have those 6, then my next goal is how fast can I pay off one? And after I pay off that one, how fast can that one pay off the other one, then have them roll into it. A very safe, very stable way to build and grow. And then your growth is very sustainable that way. You know, you're a happy camper if you played out that way. You hit your monthly number, and you're able to accomplish what it is that you need to accomplish. So again, for folks who are already living by that, then honestly, I don't think you need to worry a whole lot. For folks who are going out and massive over leveraging, having very, 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 very little down, doing these crazy seller finance deals just to acquire the property, and then having your interest rate be crazy high. Unfortunately, again, that falls into the same category of any dip, any adjustment, anything was going to kill you. And the issue is, especially if it's not a cash flowing asset and it's not doing well, then that over leverage becomes very dangerous. Some people can do well with it, some people can live with it, some people excel with that. Again, teach their own. But for most people, I don't think you want to take on that risk. And I think most people, we don't need that much money to live the lives we want to live and to continue to do what we want to do. So again, how do I adjust with that? There will be some people who will be affected by that. And with those folks, they'll need to sell, and they'll be willing to sell at a discount, hopefully without getting into the foreclosure market, and they can make some of their money back. So I think they'll do well. But I also think that there's a ton of money on the sidelines as homes started to go up in value. I talk to a lot of people on a very regular basis. I talk to a lot of investors. There's a lot of investors that have a lot of money stockpiled, and they've been waiting for a dip in the market. They've been waiting for anything to put their money into it. And because there's, again, a very deep bench of people there who want to buy something, then they go in there once the numbers make sense for them. And now all these homes are purchased up, gobbled up, and then they're there, right? So as long as you can make it competitive enough to sell, then you'll end up selling the home. So that's how I think is a good way to adjust in this changing market, is find opportunities, right? But on the macro, if we're talking about everything, how it's all laid out, I think overall it's kind of scary because we're living this day by day. We're consuming the news. It's coronavirus. Everyone and their dog is talking about it, right? And then you're talking about it and you're, oh, I'm scared. I have no idea what tomorrow is going to look like. Like, forget about tomorrow. Forget about the day after, right? If you're looking at it macro and you're looking at it over the next year, the next 5 years, just reverse engineer where you want to be in 5 years and then play that out to what I need to do today, right? So if I want to be a little more financially secure, if I want to own a couple more properties, if I want to just pay off some extra debt, it's, hey, well, what can I do today? If it's pay off some debt, maybe I need to analyze all my finances, see where I'm spending money, see where I can cut some of the fat, and then move forward with that so I can start reaching my goal and I can start changing my daily habits so I can be there, right? So macro, that's what I think we got to look for, is what is it that I can do to be where I want to be, and then start working toward that, right? And on a micro level, that's exactly it, right? It's just, what do I need to do today? I was talking to one of my really good friends who does more digital marketing and video creation. And as we were talking, I said, honestly, I think this is an awesome time for you. I think there's a lot more people who are looking at the screen. There's a lot more people who are very glued to that device, who are watching and consuming any bit of content that they can. So this is a great time for you to get in front of those people. I mean, this might sound bad, but I'm talking about economics, right? So there's no emotions here. But now is a great time to capture market share, right? So maybe some of those folks who in his industry that, hey, yeah, no, I've got a cousin who can do video, or I've got a brother who took a video class in high school once, and he's just going to do all my videos for my company. It's like, no, people are going to start looking more seriously on, hey, if I'm going to do something, I want it done correctly. So position yourself in front of them, right? As a real estate agent, I want to go in and I want to be the most helpful person to my audience, be the most helpful person to the people who know me. And then I'm creating these relationships whereas some of these other agents are now living their fear tactic and living their fear life, and they're not getting things done. Then it's a separation, right? Unfortunately, there will be some folks who don't take advantage of this time, and they'll be caught up with everyone else. But the folks who do take advantage of this time, and whatever it is that you're doing, say you wanted to be a cook, you wanted to do this, you wanted to do that. So if you wanted to be a cook, double down, get some cooking, start doing your cooking vlog. Hey, I'm here, I'm in quarantine, I've got all these things, I'm going to go out and I'm going to produce great content for you, right? Or if you're a teacher, maybe now's a good time to double down and do some videos for your class and start doubling down on those things. And maybe if you're not doing those things and you own a business and your business is closed down for now, double down, analyze everything that you're doing in your business, because we get so caught up on our day-to-day things that we don't have time for this. So this is kind of forcing us to have some time if it gets any worse, right? So we now have that time to analyze what we need to do, say, oh, cool, maybe I can cut the fat here, maybe I can cut the fat here. Maybe this is a leverage point that I hadn't thought of before, and I can go into that, and once we get back in, then I can kick that off and we can move forward. So if you spend all your time watching Netflix, you spend all your extra time watching just TV and the news and all that stuff, ultimately all that's going to do for you is keep you relatively entertained for that time frame. But if you take advantage of this time, do the right things, right? So interest rates are really low. Maybe you want to go in and analyze properties and run some numbers and see what numbers make sense for you to purchase XYZ property. And maybe you don't typically have time to analyze properties, but now you can. And you don't even need to buy them, but you just get really good at analyzing properties. So next time you see a good deal, you can pounce on it quickly without having to wait for an analysis, right? Or go into some of that criteria that you're looking for, whatever it is, right? And I know I've given some examples and I've kind of gone off on a little bit of a tangent here, but to me this is super important. You go in and you find out what you can be doing during this time frame to continue growing and continue building, and then you take advantage of this, and this no longer has to be this detrimental period. It can be a growth period, so you can go out and you can help yourself and then help other people around you because you're able to do this, right? But in my opinion, real estate is continuing. I put a deal under contract yesterday, just got a counter offer, got a notification on my phone while I was filming this video that they just accepted our offer. So we just put another deal under contract. We have 2 deals closing on Friday, right? So the market continues. Maybe not your everyday person is going out and just, hey, we just need to upsize and buy a new house right now. But there are some people who they're moving for their job, who their home, they need something a little bit bigger. Maybe they need something a little bit smaller. Whatever it is, transactions continue to happen. People still need to buy. People still need to sell. And they'll sell regardless of what market conditions are. So that'll keep some inventory going here. That'll keep things going and moving. And overall, I think we'll look back on this coronavirus and say it was something that happened. It was scary in the time. But then at that point, it's really up to you. And you can, where the rest of that conversation goes, right? But I took advantage of it. I doubled down. I created what I wanted to create, and it put me in a better position. So where I'm at today. Or, yeah, it was a time, it was a thing. It was scary. I lost some money, but it's over, and I'm here just doing my own thing now, right? So you can ultimately, the choice is yours. The gist of what I wanted to say with this video is, I don't think it's a huge time to worry. The housing market is still strong. We have very low inventory. We still have buyers who want to go out and buy. We're still getting multiple offers. The house we posted in Payson, which is Payson, it's not super bomb city where everything's blown up huge, right? It's a little slower there in general. But still, I mean, we had 5-6 different offers. On the offers that we wrote the last couple days that went under contract, we were competing with multiple offers on all of those. And then I put in another offer on a house that we didn't end up getting. But somebody else got it, right? Because the buyers continue to stay there. Life continues to go on. What I hope for you and what I plead is that you go out and you take advantage of this time for yourself, better yourself with me. If you need any help, let me know. I'm happy to help in whatever way I can. And then let's go out of this and use this as a momentary drop, right? Instead of being a stepping stone or a hurdle, it's a stepping stone to help us go to the next level. But again, I hope this helps. Again, I'll have all those graphics on the bottom here. You can check out the graphs, you can check out the data, and come up with your own conclusion. Ultimately, I'm giving you what I think is going to happen, and then we'll see how this video ages. And I appreciate anyone who watched it from start to finish. I hope it's been valuable. And again, if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. You can DM me on Instagram. It's Terry D. Bailey. On my Facebook page. I mean, really, wherever you see me, I'm sure if you reach out that we can connect and have some conversations there. But I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.